Hey everybody, Dark Claw again, and today I'm going to be doing another collection video. This time it's going to be on another large collection of mine, which is the PS1. I have a lot of PS1 games. I would say it's my second largest. I have a total of 85 or 86 games, one of the two. There's a lot of great games to the system, and I've been playing the system since I was a kid. I actually have quite a fascination for this system. There's a lot of amazing games, but also definitely some that are a bit clunky, but hey, what can you do? This was the late 90s, mid to late 90s, so yeah. But I honestly do think the PS1 has a lot of great games, and well, I'm honestly pretty fortunate to have my collection where it is now. When I started collecting for PS1, it wasn't really that great because I had a lot of crappy games. But as I got older, I started building it up to where I can safely say my collection is much improved. Sold off the crappy ones and got more of the good stuff. So, yeah, I obviously don't have everything I want for it, but I'd say my collection is at a pretty good level right now. So, anyways, I got a mix of different games, RPGs, fighting games, shooters, all that good stuff. So let's get into it. First, I have Final Fantasy Tactics. This is a great game, and probably one of the best Final Fantasy games I've ever played. It's so damn good. Great music, too. Tomb Raider 2. I used to have the first one, but I sold that because I honestly didn't really like it that much anymore. I have never really been a fan I love the first one initially when I first played it, but I don't really care for it anymore. I'm honestly not a big fan, so yeah. I know that's a bit of a hot take, because I know there are a lot of people that love it, but personally, I like Tomb Raider 2 and 3 a lot more. And Tomb Raider 2 is a damn good game. I honestly really enjoyed it. Next, I have Tales of Destiny, which is actually the most expensive game that I currently own in my collection so far. I'm not even joking. Like, this game is going for over 200 bucks complete in box. Like at least 230 complete in box. I don't know why Tekken 3 is in there, but it's in there. But there is the manual. The condition's not great. It's actually it's a bit beat up, a bit crinkled, but it's still there. And there's the disc. There's only one disc, which is weird because there's a it's just really weird because the other side of the case has like a freaking CD holder. I mean, because on other two double disc case like Gran Turismo and Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories, they didn't have a second one like this that held the game, because Gran Turismo 1 was a one-disc game, but it was in a dual-disc case. Anyways, I actually haven't even gotten to play this yet. I really should. I just haven't. That's all I can say about it, honestly. But I'm surprised But honestly, I didn't even pay that much for it because I actually got in a pretty big lot of PS1 and 2 games. This just happened to be one of them, and, well, what I didn't realize is that I was harboring a really expensive PS1 game, so that's kind of cool. MDK. I actually like this game quite a bit. It's a lot of fun to play. You're just blowing shit up as this really weird bug-looking thing. His face, his head, just kind of reminds you of Pyramid Head from the Silent Hill series. It's kind of funny. But this game's pretty good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Controls are a little awkward, but once you get used to it, it's pretty damn fun. Biofreaks. I honestly think this is a pretty underrated fighting game. I had a lot of fun playing it. It is a little clunky, I will admit, but it's actually kind of fun. I really enjoy this one. It's kind of interesting how it plays. Final Fantasy VII. I am of the opinion that I don't think it's the worst Final Fantasy game by a long shot, but I also don't think it's the best Final Fantasy game by a long shot. I just think the game is good. It's good. That's really what I can say about it. I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's amazing. I just think the game is good. It has some great parts about it. The battles are a lot of fun. The music is, of course, incredible. And I do think the story is pretty engaging. But the controls are pretty awkward. The game also doesn't really look so hot, but it was 1997 and it was a PS. It was an earlier PS1 game, so of course everything looks pretty damn blocky. But I do think the game is good for what it is. Jet Moto. This game, I liked it when I was younger. Playing this now, it's fine. The problem though is the controls feel incredibly heavy. Steering your jet bike around is kind of a pain in the ass. It just feels so heavy, like you're controlling a damn tank. And when you're playing a racing game, don't really want to do that. But I understand this was made in 1996, so perhaps maybe it was just because of the limitations that they couldn't really make the controls as good as they could have been. Next, I have Project Overkill, which is a isometric shooter from Konami. This game is alright, but I am not good at this one. Like, holy hell, I got my ass shot pretty quickly. I tried numerous times to get past the first level, and wow, it's hard. This game is pretty damn hard. It's good, though. It's a good game, but wow, I suck at it. Worms Armageddon. This was a really fun game. Probably my favorite of the 2D Worms series. I had a lot of fun playing this one. Just a great little game where you can just fuck with your friends and all that. Mr. Driller. I honestly don't understand the hate for this game. I mean, I know there are a lot of fans out there that love this game, but I also see a lot of distaste for this game. But honestly, I like it. I actually think it's a pretty fun puzzle game. It's kind of addictive, honestly. The music isn't really that great, I will admit, but I honestly thought the gameplay was really fun, and that's what kept me coming back. It also looks really good for a PS1 game, too. Tiny Tank. This game is a lot of fun. I love this game. I actually had this when I was younger. I just didn't have the case, which I do now, but back then I just had the disc. And I remember that disc very fondly because of that tank's fucking eyes. And that miniature Tiny Tank's logo on there. That's just great. Oh, there's an advertisement for Bloody Roar 2. That's pretty cool. But this game is just really fun. It's basically just an action shooter, platformer, hybrid sort of kind of game where you're playing as this little tank. You're going around shooting shit, blowing everything up. Has a bit of a bad attitude, and it's just a lot of fun. It's very over the top, very chaotic and comical, and it actually controls really well. I enjoyed this one so damn much. This is an absolute hidden gem right here. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend you do. It is getting a little up there. I got my game for like $30, I think. Maybe a little less than that. I don't know, but it is getting a little up there, but I highly recommend checking it out. Next, I have Ace Combat 2, which I was actually not expecting it to be as simple as it was, but it's a pretty simple flight game, but I enjoyed this one. This was a really fun game. I don't think it's quite as good as Ace Combat 4, which is actually my favorite entry so far, but Ace Combat 2, though, is a pretty damn good game, and I enjoy this one quite a bit. And the music, my god, the music rocks. Crash Team Racing. This game is awesome. Enough said. Army Man World War Team Assault. This game is not really all that great. I only have it because I'm a big fan of the Army Man series, even though I know they released so many damn games in the span of 3 years, which is a little excessive, and that does mean quality was not really paramount. It was more quantity than anything, and that is kind of lame, but some RE-Man games are better than others. This is one of the weaker ones. I don't think it's horrible, but it's pretty unremarkable. There's no voice acting, which is kind of weird, considering the older games had this, and this is a pretty late release. But I guess because it is a late release, they probably didn't really put that much effort into it. The controls are also really awkward and kind of clunky, honestly. And gameplay just feels really sluggish at times. Um, Not only that, the combat's just not that fun. It isn't horrible. It actually looks pretty good. But the game is just not all that fun. The multiplayer mode especially is the worst part because it's so damn slow. Metal Gear Solid. Do I even need to explain why this game is so good? It is fantastic. One of my favorite games on the PS1. Honestly, I haven't beaten it several times for no reason. It's such a classic, and I would definitely go back to it again if I had the time. Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles. This game is basically a Star Wars beat-em-up hack-and-slash kind of game. And it's alright. It's not too bad. It's kind of fun. It's got that arcade style to it that I love. It is a little clunky, but what can you do? The PS1 game released in 2000. Driver 2. I have a second disc somewhere. Well, I'll probably show it later. But, yeah. Driver 2. This is a really fun game. I enjoyed this one quite a bit, and I do believe this was basically where GTA 3 got its inspiration from, considering the first Driver you couldn't really get out of your car, and the second game you can, although most of the time you're going to be in your car. But yeah, Driver 2, pretty damn good game. And they would later go on to make the Stuntman series, which is kind of cool. It's done by Reflections Interactive. Pretty sweet. Cool Borders 2. I actually haven't played this yet. Same with Ark the Lad. Cardia, The World of Fate. This was a really fun game, and I honestly think this is one of Atlus's more underrated works. It's a lot of fun. It's a great tactical RPG with gorgeous artwork, great music, nice graphics, and really solid and complex tactical role-playing gameplay. It's just so much fun. I played this quite a bit when I was younger, and I always felt intrigued by the art style. It was so damn cool, and to this day, I still think this game is an absolute joy to play. It is really expensive, though. I highly recommend getting a loose disc. That's why my copy is loose, because the actual case, getting the game and the case is expensive as hell, so that's why I have it loose. Arc Lad 2. Have not played it. The Interactive CD Sampler Disc Volume 9. This one I actually played a lot of. Played a lot of the demos. This was one of the first PS1 games I ever got, I think. And it was really strange. I wasn't really sure what the hell this was, but then I popped it into my system. Turns out it was a demo disc, kind of like the Winter 2002 Jam Pack that I used to have. And this had a lot of great games on there that introduced me to some, like Metal Gear Solid. It also had Gran Turismo, Medieval, A Bug's Life, and Tomb Raider 3, and all that stuff, and Bust-A-Move 4, Wild 9. There was a lot of crap I remember from it. Pretty good. Lunar Silver Star Story Complete. This is one of my favorite games on the system. It may not be amazing, but I honestly love this game. I love the story, I love the gameplay, and I love the music especially. It's got a great soundtrack, which when I was searching to buy this game, I wanted to make sure I actually had the soundtrack here, and yeah, because the soundtrack is so damn good. So, because a lot of copies I was finding of this game did not have the soundtrack, and so I actually managed to find a really good price of this game, which I bought it for like $31 back in 2015. I was really, no, $35 anyways. I got it for $35 back when I was back in 2015. And I'm honestly really lucky because the game is pretty damn expensive now. It's getting like $85, $95, I don't know. But I'm just happy to have the game in my collection, especially considering it's a game that I played a lot of when I was a kid. It was one of the first RPGs I ever played that made me feel something. Because before then, I was just kind of playing video games, but then Lunar basically changed all that for me, so yeah. Tekken 2. I don't like it quite as much as the third game, but this is still a pretty good game, all things considered. And I can understand why people still prefer this one over the others. Capcom vs. SNK Pro. I actually did a review on this game a few years ago, back in 2019, I think. And I said that this game was good, really good. PS1 version may not be amazing. It does have some loading time issues, but they never really bothered me that much, and definitely has a lot of animation cuts, and the audio does not sound as good because it's just overly compressed and all that, but I still think this is a very good conversion of Capcom vs. SNK, which may be better on the Dreamcast, but I still think it's great on PS1 just as well. Final Fantasy IX. Probably my favorite Final Fantasy on the PS1. It is so good. I love the story. I love the gameplay. I love the music. It's just great. This one isn't Metal Gear Solid. It's actually two games that I put in there because I didn't have anywhere else to put them. Silent Hill and Need for Speed High Stakes. Silent Hill I've played a few times, and from what I've played, it's pretty good. It's a pretty freaky game. Need for Speed High Stakes I actually haven't played yet. Final Fantasy VIII. I actually really like this game. I know a lot of people absolutely hate this one, like despise it, but personally, I enjoyed this one quite a lot. SmackDown 2, Know Your Role. I mean, you can't deny that the Nintendo 64 wrestling games were some of the best, but I don't think the PS1 was a real slouch in that department either. It did take a while, though, for them to get really good, but when THQ took center stage for the wrestling games, it all just fell into place, and yeah, these games got really good because of them, and this game is really fun. It's still fun to play, actually. Bushido Blade. This was actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I was a little nervous with this one because I knew it was going to be a more realistic fighting game, but to my surprise, I actually found this one to be a lot of fun to play, and it actually controls quite well. Way better than I was expecting. King of Fighters 99. Basically, the black sheep of the series, I guess you could say, but I honestly think this is a really fun game. It may not be as good as the other ports of the game, considering this one does have some animation cuts and and has heavier compression on the dialogue and voices and stuff, but I still really enjoyed this game. I had a lot of fun on the PS1 version. It still plays well at the very least, so that's something. Namco Museum Volume 3. This was a really fun game. This was well, I don't even know what I'm saying. This game is alright. It doesn't have the best lineup, though. Like, it has Ms. Pac-Man and Dig Dug and Galaxian. Also has Pole Position 2, Fozon, and Tower of Jiraga, but honestly, the only ones really worth playing here for me are Ms. Pac-Man and Dig Dug. I don't like the Tower of Jiraga. I honestly found it to be really busted. I honestly don't care for it that much. Fozon is alright, I guess. Pole Position 2 really isn't that much different from the first game. It's just Pole Position 1, but with slightly better but with more courses and vehicle damage animations. Galaxian was good for the time, and I liked it when I was younger, but after playing Galaga so many times, I can never go back to Galaxian because it's so damn slow compared to Galaga. So yeah, but other than that, this is not really a standout selection of games compared to some of the others. Next, I have Jet Moto 3. This was a really fun game. I actually like this a lot more than the first two. I know that's a bit of a controversial opinion, but I honestly did prefer this one because I think it played better. Jimmy White's 2 Cue Ball. The only reason I have this is for one thing and one thing only, and that is the Drop Zone arcade cabinet. Now, I actually do like billiards in real life. I have a lot of fun playing them, but in video game form, this is pretty damn boring. The Drop Zone arcade cabinet is the only reason why I even have it. Ridge Racer, the original one. This game, it's fine. It's a decent game, but it hasn't aged all that gracefully. The content is very limited. There's like only 12 cars to choose from, and there is like only one variant track, and there's really not much content, honestly. Battle Tanks Global Assaults. I liked this one when I was younger, but after playing this again, this is worse than I remember. I think the biggest problem I have with this is that it was just kind of sluggish. And also, the tanks are a lot bigger than they're supposed to. They're just a lot bigger than you'd expect. Like, they take up most of the fucking screen, and it's kind of annoying because you can't always see what the hell you're doing. It gets a bit annoying staring at that thing. Gran Turismo, the original. I enjoyed this one when I was younger, and this is still an important game for sure. It's good, but it certainly has not aged the best. It's got some issues here and there, but it's not a bad game, though. Not by a long shot. Chrono Cross. This is a pretty good game. I didn't like it quite as much as Chrono Trigger, but it was still pretty good. Road Rash. This is probably one of my favorite racing games on the PS1. This game is so damn good. Beating the living shit out of other racers on the field, always satisfying. And with that fantastic soundtrack featuring Soundgarden, Therapy, Hammerbox, and a bunch of others. Monster Magnet. Just so much great shit, man. Legend of the Dragoon, which I actually got at a swap meet a few months ago, and I'm really glad I did, because back then, which I'm really glad I did, because this was actually my goal game, the game I was looking for in the shop, but then I was about to give up because I couldn't find it in anyone's trade selection, let alone in the store itself, until a new person came into the store and brought his box of PS1 games, and to my shock, he actually had Legend of Dragoon. Seeing this, I immediately went up to the guy and asked him how much it costed, and so he said it was $70, so I bought it for that much, and I'm really glad I did, because this is a great RPG. It was so much fun, and I got all 4 discs. I think it's 4. Yeah. And the manual's in pretty good condition. A little bit. It's got a few tiny grooves in there, but pretty good. Disc 3 and 4. Yep, it's all complete. And I'm honestly really happy to have this in my collection. It's so satisfying. Great RPG. Parasite Eve. I actually have not played this yet, unfortunately, and I really need to, because I've heard it is really good. Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. I actually remember liking this game quite a bit. I heard it really isn't that great, though. It's been a while since I played this last, but I do remember enjoying it. Next, I have 1. Yeah, it's just called 1. I actually don't have the case for this at this very moment, because I traded this game in for, what did I trade it in for? I think it was a PS1 game? No, I didn't trade it for anything. I bought this for like $5, because this game is pretty cheap, but it is a good game, though. It's actually kind of fun. It's basically this, top-down, not top-down, third-person shooter where you're just blowing shit up. So if you like mayhem and explosions, this is the game for you. It's really good. Fighting Force. This is a pretty good beat-em-up game. I enjoy this one quite a bit, although it is a little bit awkward to control, but I got used to it pretty quickly after a bit. It's pretty tough, though. Midway Arcade's Greatest Hits, the Atari Collection 2, which has games like Gauntlet, Crystal Castles, Marble Madness, Road Blasters, and stuff like that. A decent selection of games here. C12 Final Resistance. This game was actually kind of fun. I enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought it was going to. And this is a pretty late release for the PS1 too. This was released in 2002. That's pretty damn late for a PS1 game. But this was surprisingly good. Syphon Filter. Loved this game. I don't like it quite as much as the second, but this is still a damn good game. I played this one quite a lot, and I've even finished it pretty recently. I do love the gameplay style. It is a little bit clunky, but I got used to it pretty quickly after getting a groove for it. And I really enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun just going around sneaking and shooting enemies in the head, tasering people until they caught fire, and just doing all sorts of crazy shit. This is a really fun game. It's got some issues, like the checkpoint system is a little bit awkward, and game's hard as fuck. And sometimes it can get a little cheap, like there's some cheap deaths here, but it's still a pretty fun game, though. I enjoyed it. Ridge Racer Type 4. This game is awesome. I fucking love this. This is one of my favorite PS1 racing games. I enjoyed this so damn much. I actually got addicted to it. I actually ended up beating this game a couple days after I got it, but I honestly really enjoyed this game to death, though. It's so much fun. There's so much replay value. Even has a turbo mode disc with the first Ridge Racer, which is kind of interesting. Final Fantasy Anthology. This is actually a late release. Not a late release in general, but this is like... This is a later reprint. So, yeah. This is a late reprint. I'm not really sure when this reprint came out, but I think it was like back in 2002 or 2003. Some shit like that. But this game, though, is... But this is a compilation of Final Fantasy 5 and 6 with their own dedicated PS1 ports, which I thought was kind of cool. I beat Final Fantasy 5, and I thought it was a really good game and very underrated, honestly. And Final Fantasy 6 I'm currently playing through right now. I freaking love this game so far. It is a really good RPG with a great story and all that good stuff. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. I actually like this one quite a bit. I didn't like it as much as the 6th gen versions on PS2 and GameCube, but this was still a pretty damn good version. I was honestly really impressed. Gran Turismo 2. Way better than the first one in almost every way. Just a ton of fun, and I honestly would say this game still holds up pretty well. 007 The World Is Not Enough. This game is alright, and I also have it on N64 as well, and the reason why I double-dipped was because they're actually pretty different versions. But you're better off playing the 64 version. It's just a little bit better. Tekken 3. This is probably my favorite Tekken game of all time, and my favorite PS1 game. I absolutely adore this game to death. I've wasted more hours on this than any other video game. I swear to God, I've wasted like maybe over 400, 500 hours on this game. It is so damn good. I love it so much. I love how it plays. I love the graphics. I love the gameplay. I love the characters. Honestly, there really isn't much I can complain about it. Except for maybe that hidden character Gun, who is just... wow. An absolute fuck you character in the biggest ways. Mortal Kombat 4. A lot of people seem to hate this game, but I honestly thought it was fun. I mean, it's clunky, don't get me wrong. It definitely doesn't play that great compared to the later 3D games, but I still really enjoyed this one for what it was, even if it was a little clunky. I think my biggest issue was the weapon system, because you have to enter in a really complicated button output just to be able to get your weapon out, and if you get hit just once, your weapon flies out of your hands and just kind of makes the damn thing useless. I guess it was because they had to make the weapons OP to compensate, but still, it's just kind of stupid. Like, why even have a weapon system if it's going to hardly be used. But I still enjoyed the game, though, despite that issue. Hot Wheels Turbo Racing. I really enjoyed this game a lot when I was younger, but unfortunately, my disc doesn't work anymore. I tried to fire this up earlier, like a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately, the game just simply doesn't work anymore. It's seen way too much crap. Like, the disc has suffered greatly. I haven't put it in my PS3 yet, though. I might try that instead, because it just won't work on my PS2 anymore. Syphon Filter 3. I'm actually currently playing through this one right now, since I've already finished the first two. I honestly don't like it as much as the first two games, but this is still good. Like, the game is still a good game. I mean, it's the same gameplay as Syphon Filter 2 pretty much. But there are some issues I have with this game. The story is honestly pretty disappointing. It's all told in flashback form, which is fine. It's just that the way it's told is just really lazily done, and not only that, the game just feels a little derivative of the first two games, and also the challenge is surprisingly pretty lacking here, which that's basically Syphon Filter's shtick, is it's supposed to be challenging and difficult, but most of the stages are either way too damn easy or way too damn frustrating, or not really too damn frustrating, but more just annoying than anything. Like, instead of what they did in the first two games, it does feel like some of the stages are just really annoying getting around, because, like, you'll die a lot, but it won't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things, because you can just easily blow through enemies pretty fast with the right arsenal, and you're kosher. And another issue I have with this game is that, well, a lot of the stuff that made the first two games is missing. Like, the problem solving is pretty low in this one. A lot of it's a very straightforward experience, which isn't inherently bad, but for the third entry, I kind of expected more of what Syphon Filter 2 had to offer. But it is very clear this game was a bit rushed to market, because they were originally going to make a PS2 game out of this, and instead, because Ben Studios executives had noticed that there were still a ton of people that hadn't upgraded to PS2 yet, they decided to get them to make one more game on the PS1 before releasing a new Syphon Filter game on the PS2, which would later come in the form of the Omega Strain in 2004. But it's still a good game. Like, it still plays as good as the first two games. I think another issue I have with this game is that some of the stages are a little too damn long. Like, they're just too... Like, I feel like the environments are just too spacious. They're really big, and most of the time you just walk around, you get lost easy, and it's a little frustrating. But I still think this game is good for what it is. I mean, it still plays just as good as the second game. It looks really good, too. Like, the game is probably one of the best looking on the PS1. There's so much detail, and I honestly didn't think they could outdo that, because the second game was already quite a limit pusher. But the third game really pushed things even further graphically, and it's pretty damn impressive. It really came a long way in that department. And of course, the music is still excellent. I mean, it's Syphon Filter. You gotta expect good music. Dragon Warrior 7, or Dragon Quest 7 as it's known everywhere else. I actually really like this game, although I don't remember this game being long as hell to get through, but I still really enjoy this. This is a fun RPG with great music. Vanishing Point. I have this on the Dreamcast as well, and I'd say this is a pretty good version of it, but the Dreamcast version is a little bit better. However, if you don't have a Dreamcast, this is still a very serviceable way to play Vanishing Point. It's basically a racing, and I don't really think I need to say much more on it, because I already talked about this game in my Dreamcast video, so yeah, but the PS1 version is mostly the same. It just has the obvious graphical downgrade, but thankfully, the PS1 version actually does live up to what the game's draw was. Like, no no graphical drawing or anything. It actually doesn't really have that here on the PS1 either, so that's kind of cool. It still looks really good for a PS1 game too. I mean, this was released in 2000, so you kind of so I would hope it looks good. But yeah, this is a pretty good game. I would say get the Dreamcast version, but if you don't have that, then the PS1 version is still a very good port. Command and Conquer Red Alert. I thought this was the game that I played when I was younger, but it turns out the one I played was actually the game that came after this one, which was Red Alert Retaliation. But Command & Conquer Red Alert original, though, is still a pretty good game. I enjoy the Command & Conquer series quite a bit. It's pretty fun. Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. This is basically a poor man's Crash Bandicoot. All I can say about it, really. Stuart Little 2. I actually enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. Like, I loved it when I was a kid, but when I recently played this, I'm actually surprised this game holds up pretty well. Like, it's a good platform game. It was kind of fun to play. And especially considering this game was released pretty late in the system's life cycle, released in 2002, like, after the movie had come out, or, like, maybe at the same time as the movie. I'm not really sure why they didn't make a PS2 game out of this, because considering the PS2 was already pretty big at this point. But whatever, it's still a pretty good game, and I'm honestly surprised it's as good as it is. I did love the first two Stuart Little movies. They were a lot of fun to watch when I was younger, and to this day, I still like them. So, yeah, there you go. SmackDown, WWF SmackDown. This was pretty good, but I do like the second game a little bit better. Arc the Lad 3, never played it. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. This game is awesome. I fucking love this one. Such a fun 2D action platformer. Activision Classic Games for the Atari 2600. This one has a bunch of Atari 2600 games. Of course it does, as shown on here. And it's a decent selection, but it's not really the best way to play these games today, honestly. Rayman. This was actually really fun, but holy shit, it gets pretty damn tough in the latter half of the game. Now, for the record, I don't hate hard games. I do like them from time to time, and I don't mind playing through them. However, while I love a challenge, I love a fair challenge. I don't like when a game just throws bullshit at you, when it's like cheap deaths or stuff like that. I don't like cheap difficulty. I like natural, challenging difficulty. That's what I'm here for. Gex. This was pretty fun. I like the 3D ones a little bit more, though. Interactive CD Sampler Disc Volume 5, which contains stuff like Armored Core. What else did it contain? It also contained, well, crap, I'm actually drawing a blank here. But, that's not a bad compilation of games. Oh, it has Crash 2. And that really crappy Star Wars fighting game, Masters of Terras Kasai. But yeah, not a bad selection of games here. Syphon Filter 2. Out of all the PS1 Syphon Filter games, this one's easily my favorite. I've had the most fun playing it. This game is honestly just damn near perfect. It's so much fun to play. It improves on just about everything that the first game suffered from. Like, the first game is still great, don't get me wrong, but the second game does everything better, pretty much. The level design is better, the gameplay is a little more refined, the controls are a little better. It's still got tank controls, but it does feel a little smoother to play compared to the first game. And the game also looks better, and the voice acting is still not very good, but it is a little better here. But the game is a lot of fun to play, and the music is also just as good, if not maybe even a little better, but yeah, 2 is just an excellent game. And also, it's a lot more forgiving with its checkpoint system. Like, the game is hard, don't get me wrong, it's a pretty tough game, but very rarely did I ever feel like my deaths were unwarranted, because if I died in the game, that was generally my own damn fault, and that's kind of what I'm looking for in a hard game. If I die in the game, I want to actually learn from it and see what I did wrong, instead of feeling like my death was unwarranted. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. What can I say that hasn't already been said about this game? It's a certified classic on PS1. It's a great game. And this is disc 2 of Driver 2. I already talked about that. Mortal Kombat Trilogy. I love this game. I've had a lot of fun playing it. I know it may not be the ideal way to play MK3, but I still really enjoyed it. Breath of Fire 3 and Breath of Fire 4. I was kind of shocked to see that Breath of Fire 4 was a lot more expensive. But both games are really good, although I do like Breath of Fire 3 just a little bit more. And Tomb Raider 3. I'm a little more partial to Tomb Raider 2, but Tomb Raider 3 is still a great game, though. A lot of fun. Die Hard Trilogy. One of the cheaper games I bought for the system. It's like $7. I actually like this game quite a bit. It's pretty fun. It actually has like 3 different genres, like which are all based on the first 3 movies, from the original Die Hard to Die Hard with a Vengeance. Die Hard 1 is basically a third-person action shooter. The second game, Die Harder, is more of a light gun shooter, kind of like Time Crisis or Virtua Cop. And the third game is more like a driving game, but honestly, you can ignore the driving game because Die Hard with a Vengeance is incredibly hard to play because the car physics are so awkward and so loose. Like, it feels like you're constantly just constantly bouncing off the walls and running into shit, and it's just really awkward. It doesn't really play that well. But Die Hard 1 and 2, though, are definitely great games. Definitely a reason to play this game. You can easily ignore Die Hard with a Vengeance, but don't sleep on Die Hard 1 and 2 here. And the last game I have for PS1 is Soviet Strike. My dad used to have this on the Saturn years ago, and I remember being pretty impressed by it. Looking back at it now, though, it's really nothing impressive, but the game is still fun, though. I mean, it's still part of the Strike universe, and I do love the Strike games. I just wish they'd come back, because I haven't seen a new one since Nuclear Strike. But this is a pretty good game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And that is my PS1 collection. I'd say my selection is pretty good at this point. I might have missed something. Hold on. Nope, that's all of it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in another collection video. Take care.